Hey guys, it's Nicole. I'm back with another video, and today's video is obviously going to be about a book, but I thought we would continue with the books that I read in my childhood and my younger years. I'm still young, but I'm talking about pre-20s, because there's just something really special about the books that I read, obviously when I was a child. I think it shaped a lot of my tastes today in books, and obviously shaped my love for reading. And so there are some books that I just really want to give my thoughts on and even kind of share why they're so fun or special to me. So this book is actually the book that I actually listened to it as a book on tape because audiobooks were not a thing when I was a little kid. So it was a book on tape, like a cassette tape. And listening to books is still reading. If you want to be all snobby and say it's not really reading, that's your choice, but you're still taking in a story whether you're reading it or listening to it, so it's still reading. It's still a book. So this book I listened to as a book on tape when I was maybe 6 or 7 years old. It's something that my parents would put on the radio, in the car, on long drives, because we had a lot of long drives to make when I was younger. And this book just awakened my sense of wonder and made me want to read more. And yes, it was a book on tape, but it was still a book, so it made me want to read more. And that's why I wanted to talk about it today. So today's video is going to be about The Magician's Nephew. So I'm sure most people have heard of this. It's an old book. It's book 1 of the series. It's a very popular, known book. And if you don't know it, that's totally fine. I'm not trying to shame you. I just know that this is a very well-known book. And the reason it's well-known, in case you didn't know, is this is the first book in this series of The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, The Chronicles of Narnia. So this is book 1. They didn't do a movie, when they did the movies back in the 2000s or so, they didn't do the first book as the movie. I don't know why. I loved that movie as well, but they didn't do the first book as the movie. They did book 2 as the movie. And so a lot of people that don't know the books tend to believe that The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe is book 1 or the beginning of the story, when it's not. I'm not going to get into any of the religious connotations of this particular series because it's there, but I don't really talk about that stuff on my channel, so that's not what we're here to talk about. What we're here to talk about is the sense of wonder that this book gave me as a little kid. I got this particular book maybe 10 years ago or so to actually have the book and to read it, because as a kid, like I said, I only listened to it on a book on tape. So when I was little, I didn't know the cover, but when I got this particular version with this particular cover, I loved it because I knew the story. I know who that is. I know the story of the cover. And so I loved the cover, obviously. And I did not pick this book to listen to in the car. My parents did. I don't know why, never asked. So I can't say oh, I wanted to pick this book up because I loved the title or this. This was just one of the books that they happened to have it as a book on tape for me when I was younger, and I happened to like it. So I do like the title, knowing what the book is about, because it makes sense. The Magician's Nephew. And we will get into that a little bit. But I am going to read the back of the book real quick because it's a short little thing. So at the top of the back, it says Narnia. And then underneath that, it says the secret passage to the house next door leads to a fascinating adventure. Now, Narnia, where the woods are thick and cool, where talking beasts are called to life, a new world where the adventure begins. Diggory and Polly meet and become friends one cold, wet summer in London. Their lives burst into adventure when Diggory's uncle Andrew, who thinks he is a magician, sends them hurtling to somewhere else. They find their way to Narnia, newborn from the lion's song, and encounter the evil sorceress, Jadis, before they finally return home. So that's what the book is about. It is the first book in the series. There are 7 books in total. I did read the other books a long time ago. I could not tell you all the details. They're pretty similar to the movies. Obviously, there's a lot more detail, a lot more plot, a lot of extra things in the books that's not in the movies. That's always the case. But they're really good, and so if you like the movies, you'll love the books. And if you like the books, I think you'll find the movies okay. I think that you'll all, like any book to movie kind of transition, there's always going to be a, I wish they had put this in, or I didn't like what they did there because they totally changed that. So I think that's always going to be the case. But if you liked the books, I still think you'll kind of find the movies good because they turned out really good. In my opinion, that's just what I think. So that's what The Magician's Nephew is about. And I actually don't know how old this book is. Usually it'll have some sort of copyrights, like original copyrights. Okay, so it looks like the original copyright was 1955. So yeah, I was correct. This is not a recent book, not even in the last 30 years. So yeah, going into that sense of wonder that I said that this book gave me, it even kind of said it on the back. A new world where the adventure begins. And I think at any point in your life, adventure is so fun. But as a kid, because the world is a confusing place, and obviously it's our job as adults to guide them through it. But there's something about having magical worlds that, not real, but can be made to feel real to children and even adults, honestly. Like, I still love this book because there's just something so important about a sense of wonder and imagination in everyone, children and adults. It's important to have a sense of imagination and fun. And to me, that's what this book is. You can disagree, you can say this book is about something else or blah, blah, blah. But to me, for me, this book gave me that sense of wonder and excitement about imagination and fantasy and all of that. So that's what this book was to me. And that's why it's such a special, special book to me. And I haven't really said any spoilers, obviously. I may go into a little bit of spoilers in like a second, but I just wanted to share this book because if you haven't read it, no matter what your age is, I think this is a really good read. I don't care how old you are. There's something about just entering a world of adventure and fantasy that I think every single person needs. And that's what this book does. And I would definitely say if you are a child yourself or if you are a parent, children should read this book. I really think children should read this book. And I'm not going to say you have to or anything. I'm just pointing out what it did for me when I was a little kid and the joy that I get even now reading this and thinking back on getting to experience that when I was little. And the sense of wonder, like I said, I keep saying it over and over again, but it's just such a magical thing and such an important thing, especially for children to have. And there's a lot of books that do that, and I may try to make more videos about that kind of stuff. But this is a really good one. The rest of the series is big on like adventure and everything else, and it may not be necessarily great for little kids. This book was really, really good for me. I was around 6 or 7 when I first listened to the book on tape, and it just really stuck with me my entire life. So I think it's a really good one. So that being said, I do kind of want to talk about what the sense of wonder was that made me so fascinated with this book. And those are a little bit of spoilers. So if you haven't read this book, definitely be aware I'm going into spoilers. If you don't want spoilers, go ahead and close out the video. So if you are leaving, thank you for watching. Let's go ahead and get into the spoilers. So the magician in this book is Diggory's Uncle Andrew. And I like how on the back of the book it says specifically his Uncle Andrew who thinks he is a magician. So the reality is, I'd have to read the book again. It's been like I said, 10 years since I read this book last, but the Uncle Andrew in this book comes across these 2 rings. Now, 2 rings, each of the ring has a different, I want to say like stone, like gem. One is green, one is yellow. Uncle Andrew just doesn't really know exactly what they do. So he's doing experiments. He sends a guinea pig through they're almost like portals, if that makes sense. I don't approve of sending animals through that stuff, using animals for that kind of stuff, but that's just me. But that's just what he does. And what Uncle Andrew does is he tricks Polly, the girl, not his niece or nephew, the girl next door, into the portal through one of the rings. And I don't remember which ring it was so long ago. And Diggory was there when it happened, so Diggory's like, well, now I have to go too. And so Uncle Andrew in this book is a little bit not a mature adult and not the greatest responsible person, because he could have just gone himself. So he sends one child and it ends up sending 2, because Diggory's like, well, I'm going after her. She's my friend. And that's how we journey for the very first time to the magical land of Narnia, which is a world that was brand new, just created, like it said, newborn from the Lion's Song. So if you know the movie, Aslan, that's the lion they're referring to. He created Narnia. But there's more than one world that you can get to through the portals that exist. And that's how they meet the not so great evil sorceress Jadis. And this part might scare kids, but it was just so like fascinating to me when I was a kid. But the reason they meet Jadis, and I remember this so vividly, was because they entered what was essentially a large, almost throne room, like in a castle, in a different universe, not Narnia, not their reality, different universe. And there were people everywhere, but they were tall and almost statuesque, but there were people everywhere, except they were frozen. Not like ice frozen, but like frozen in time. And there wasn't really a clear explanation as to what it was that froze them like that. You know, like they were clearly in the midst of some sort of event, and they were all dressed very royally, and one of the people, I don't remember who it was, Polly or Diggory, was just so stunning and so striking that they just were so taken by Jadis and ended up accidentally waking her up. Now, the room started to quake, and then things were like going down, and the other people weren't waking up, and it was a whole thing, but Jadis woke up. And when Polly and Diggory escaped that universe back to the portal realm, Jadis held on and went with them. And that is how she eventually got to Narnia. And that is how she eventually became the, I don't remember what they called her in The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, but she was the witch, basically. The one who took over Narnia. So that's where she came from. And for me, like, yes, there was a lot of like descriptors in that particular chapter and part of the book that were a little bit, could be considered a little bit scary, but it wasn't scary to me as a kid. And I think it stuck with me for so long because it was just such a crazy, awesome, like, origin story for the villain. Because there's a lot more. You see and read a lot more about Jadis in this book, and it just stuck with me all these years, and I really liked it. Going to that realm and then having the ability to jump from portals to go to different realms was just so cool and fun. And I remember listening to this book and reading it and feeling feeling like literally anything could be possible. Even though it's a book, even though it's fantasy, I was little, it just felt like anything was possible. And my imagination was just taking off and picturing all the things that could be in the other universes, because there were other portals. And it was just such a good thing for me personally to have read when I was so little. And I think it's why I just love the fantasy genre so much, and why I'm into imagination, why I love stories so much. I love all different kinds of stories, no matter how possible or believable that they are. I love stories, and I think that this was the beginning of that. And one other thing I wanted to touch on, because I loved how world building this book was and how it set it up so well for the next book or movie or story, was how the wardrobe came to be from The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. So again, I'm not going to get into the religious connotations, but essentially in Narnia, there were apple trees that you were not supposed to pick from and eat the apples, and Jadis did. And without going into how, the apple, because she only took one bite of it, ended up going back with Diggory and Polly to their reality, to the real life. And they planted that apple, and it became a tree. But then the tree got blown down, and Diggory couldn't bear to see it hauled away, and so he had it turned into a wardrobe. And so that's how the wardrobe became the portal to Narnia. But only sometimes, because if you've watched the movie or read the book, you know it doesn't always work. Yeah, that was obviously another part that really stuck with me, that just added to that sense of wonder. I just really wanted to talk about it and explain why it was just a book that stuck with me my whole life, and why I think it's such a good book to read, regardless of where you are in your life, what you believe, what you don't believe. I just think that this is a really great fantasy book. So that is all for today's video. I just want to thank anyone who's watched all the way through or subscribed to my channel, basically interacted with my videos and channel in any capacity. Just thank you so much. If you haven't subscribed to my channel, please subscribe. I would love to get more subscribers. I really want to build this channel up more, have more people that would enjoy this kind of content find me, and getting more subscribers, having you guys share my videos to people you think might enjoy them is really going to help with that. Word of mouth to me is one of the best ways to, spread that kind of media. Share this video with anyone you think that might like it, and definitely like and comment on this video if you enjoyed it, or just comment if you have something to add. I want to know other people who have also read this book and loved it as much as I did, or maybe you have issues with this book. I would just like to hear from you. So please like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff, and I will see you all in the next video.